Good morning. In the morning, this video is about ecosystem. First, we are going to learn about the Earth system and its components. The Earth's life support system consists of four main components: the geosphere, the atmosphere and hydrosphere, and the biosphere. These components are overlapping and interrelated with each other. A change in one is likely to result in change in one or more others. These components are briefly described. The geosphere. This part of Earth's system consists of rocks, minerals, and sediments. It includes thin outer crust, a thick molten mantle composed mostly of rocks, and intensely hot core. This upper portion contains soil layers where organisms live, grow, and reproduce, and thus provide an important ecological habitat and basis of many forms of life. Various processes taking place on the surface of geosphere include erosion, weathering, and transport, as well as tectonic forces and volcanic activities, which result in the formation of landforms such as mountains, hills, etc. Next, the atmosphere. The atmosphere is the gaseous layer surrounding the Earth's surface and held to its surface by gravity. Its inner layer, the troposphere, consists mostly of nitrogen, 78% of total volume, oxygen 21%, and others 1%. The other include carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapors mainly. All of these are called as greenhouse gases, which absorb and release energy to warm the lower atmosphere. This layer extends only about 17 km above sea level at the tropics and about 7 kilometers above the poles. The next layer, stratosphere, extends from 70 into 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Its lower portion consists of the ozone layer, which traps 95% of the ultraviolet radiations coming from sun, prevents from them from reaching the Earth's surface, and allows life to exist on the Earth's surface. The outer layers of atmosphere are called as the thermosphere and exosphere. The atmosphere also absorbs water from the Earth's surface via the process of evaporation. It then acts to redistribute heat and moisture across the Earth's surface, thus giving rise to different weather conditions. Here we can see this picture. The atmosphere, this part of the Earth system, include the mixture of gases that surround the planet. The biosphere, this part of the Earth system, include all living things, including plants, animals, and other organisms. Then the geosphere, this part of the Earth system, include the crust, mantle, and inner and outer core. Then the hydrosphere, this part of the Earth system is the planet's water, including ocean, lake, river, groundwater, ice, and water vapor. The hydrosphere. The hydrosphere, this part includes all the gaseous, liquid, and solid water of the Earth system. The hydrosphere includes Earth's oceans and seas, polar ice, glaciers, icebergs, lakes, rivers, and streams, atmospheric moisture and ice crystals, areas of permafrost, moisture found in the soil water, and within rocks, groundwater. It includes both saltwater and freshwater systems. The ocean, which cover about 71% of the globe, contain about 97% of the Earth's water. The glaciers and icebergs lock 2% of the total water on Earth, and remaining 1% is found as surface waters and groundwater. Water is groundwater in the means water in rocks. Water is essential for the existence and maintenance of life on Earth. The Earth's temperature is highly influenced by the hydrosphere. In some classifications, the glaciers, icebergs, and ice caps are also called as the cryosphere. Cryosphere. Okay. Next, biosphere, ecosystem structure and functions we are going to learn. This part includes all zones of Earth where life is present. It includes all the plants, animals, and microorganisms present on Earth. Much of the biosphere is contained within a shallow surface layer encompassing the lower part of the atmosphere, the surface of the geosphere, and approximately the upper 100 meters of the oceans. All living organisms of biosphere are intimately related to the other three spheres, as most living organisms require gases from the atmosphere, water from the hydrosphere, and nutrients and minerals from geosphere. Human beings, as part of the biosphere, interact with the entire Earth system, its components and subcomponents, which follow the fundamental principles of physics, chemistry, biology, and geology. These principles function in terms of processes and cycles such as climate processes, biogeochemical cycles, and hydrologic cycle. The ability for utilizing and altering all aspects of Earth system include natural resources directly or indirectly place human beings in seemingly inevitable competition with all other organisms. The consequences of this competition are revealed in the form of global warming, disturbances in biogeochemical cycles such as perturbation of the nitrogen cycle, regional changes in quality and quantity of fresh water. The main components of the Earth system are interconnected by two factors, which are the one-way flow of energy from the sun to the living organisms and their feeding interactions into the environment, and eventually to outer space as heat. As the solar energy interacts with carbon dioxide or other gases in the troposphere, it warms the Earth's surface and lower atmosphere by the process of greenhouse effect. The latter makes the Earth's temperature sustainable for living organisms, which would otherwise be too cold to support the life on Earth. The cycling of the nutrients through parts of biosphere. The nutrients that cycle through the major biochemical cycles are carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and phosphorus and sulfur, all of which are essential for life. These biogeochemical cycles operate at a global scale and involve all of the main components of Earth system. These materials are transferred continually between the geosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, and biosphere, geology, and ecosystem. The interactions in nature The interactions in nature are studied in a branch of science termed as ecology. Have you ever pondered that why the forest area is covered by huge, lush green trees, and besides these, what more is present in a forest? Why there is a difference in forest types along the physical gradient? Why the plants and animals in a pond differ from an ocean? How the availability of water and temperature could mark a difference in vegetation of a desert and a tundra region? How the animals affect water and nutrient availability in the soil? How does fire affect the amount of food available in grasslands? All these questions find answers in the study of ecology and ecosystems. The term ecology was first coined by the German biologist Ernst Haeckel in 1869. Haeckel defined ecology as the study of natural environment, including the relations of organisms to one another and to their surroundings. It is derived from two Greek words like eikos, meaning home, and logos, meaning study. This literally ecology is the study of life at home with main emphasis on pattern of relationships between organisms and their surrounding environment. Clemens in 1916 considered ecology to be the science of communities. Odom in 1963 has defined ecology as the study of the structure and function of nature. It was broadly defined by Andrew Worth in 1961 as ecology is the scientific study of interactions that determine the distribution and abundance of organisms. Modern ecologist Smith 1977 has defined it as a multidisciplinary science which deals with organism and its place to live and focuses on ecosystem. In simple words, it deals with the intricate web of relationships between living organisms and their non-living surroundings. The surroundings consist of other living organisms and non-living environments such as water, air, soil, etc. Ecologists mainly focus on the distribution, life processes, and adaptations among the organisms, which further are associated with the analysis of flow of energy and nutrients. Ecology can also be considered in terms of concept of levels of organization. The entire biological spectrum can, at the best, be divided into 10 levels of organization, including atom, cell, organ, and organ system. The ecologists study interactions within and among 6 of these levels: organisms, populations, communities, ecosystem, biomes, and the biosphere. Yeah. Organism. Organ systems work together in a functional organism. Population. A population consists of organisms of the same species. Organ system. Wait. Yeah. From here we need to learn levels of biological organization: water molecule, oxygen atom, hydrogen atom. Chemical level. Atoms join to form molecule. Macromolecules are large molecules such as protein and DNA. Macromolecule. Cellular level. Atoms and molecules make up the cytoplasm and form organelles such as the nucleus and mitochondria, the site of many energy transformations. Organelles perform various functions of the cell. Tissue, bone tissue cells associate to form tissues. Organ, bone tissues from organs. Organ systems, skeletal system tissues and organs make up organ systems. So molecule, macromolecule, organelle, cell, tissue, organ, organ system, organism, population, community, ecosystem, biosphere. So community, the populations of different species that populate the same area make up a community. Ecosystem, a community together with the non-living environment forms an ecosystem. Biosphere, each earth and all of its communities constitute the biosphere. Ecology is divided into two branches depending upon whether an individual organism or a group of organisms is considered in the study. Autecology, the study of an individual species in relation to its environment, is known as autecology. It involves the study of geographical distribution, taxonomic position, morphological characters, life cycle and behavior with reference to ecological factors that might influence these activities. For example, the study of a particular fish, where it lives, what it eats, how many eggs it lays, etc. Synecology, the study of group of organisms in relation to their environment, is called as synecology. Here the unit of study is the group of species. For example, the study of aquatic flora and fauna in a particular river, the kinds of fishes and other animals living in it, types of plants found, the interrelationship between the plants and animals and with the physical factors of water, etc. Concept of ecosystem. In nature, the living organisms, plants, animals, and microorganisms, and non-living environment, water, air, soil, etc., are inseparably interrelated and interact with each other. Non-living organism can exist by itself or without an environment. Every organism uses energy, nutrients, and water from its surrounding environment in various life activities. The plants obtain the energy directly from the sun, and in case of animals and microorganisms, energy is taken from other organisms through feeding on plants, predation, parasitism, and or decomposition. The terrestrial plants obtain water mainly from soil, while animals get it from free standing water in the environment or from their food. The plants obtain most of their nutrients from the soil or water, while animals get nutrients from plants or other organisms. The plants obtain most of their nutrients from the soil or water, while animals get nutrients from plants or other organisms. Microorganisms are the most versatile, obtaining nutrients from soil, water, food, and other organisms. As a result, the organisms interact with one another and with their environment in a number of ways. These fundamental interactions among organisms and their non-living and physico-chemical environment constitute an interrelating and interdependent, ever-changing system known as the ecological system or ecosystem. The ecosystem has been considered as the basic fundamental unit of ecology, and ecology as the study of ecosystems. The togetherness of organisms and environment has been expressed in history by different ecologists. However, the formal terminologies began to appear in different parts of the world in the late 80s. Carl Moebius, a German scientist, in 1877 gave the term biocenosis to a community of organisms in Oyster Reef. In 1887, biocenosis to a community of organisms in Oyster Reef. In 1887, Forbes, an American scientist, described lake as microcosm, and Russian ecologist Sukhev in 1944 expanded it to geobiocenosis. Although the roots of ecosystem concept can be traced to 19th century, it is lately a 20th century construct. A.G. Lotka came up with the idea of ecosystem en route in his book entitled Elements of Physical Biology. The organic and inorganic worlds function in a single system to such an extent that it is impossible to understand either part without understanding the whole. However, the term ecosystem was first coined in 1935 by the British ecologist Arthur G. Tansley. Ecosystem term was coined by Arthur G. Tansley. As part of a debate over the nature of biological communities, our natural human prejudices force us to consider the organism as the most important part of these systems, but certainly the inorganic factors are also parts. Could be no systems without them, and there is a constant interchange of the most various kinds within each system, not only between the organisms but between the organic and the inorganic. These ecosystems, as we may call them, are of the most various kinds and sizes. Lee described the most fundamental nature of ecosystems as a system in which biotic and abiotic components of environment are interrelated. The main focus is on the ecosystem in the definition, and the nature of the constant interchange of most various kinds is not made clear. The great ecologist E.P. Odum in 1971 defined ecosystem as any unit that includes all of organisms, the community in a given area interacting with physical environment so that a flow of energy leads to clearly defined trophic structure, biotic diversity, and material cycles. Exchange of nutrients between living and non-living parts within the system is another ecological system or ecosystem. Thus, Odum describes explicitly that ecosystem is a geographical unit and energy flow plays a central role in defining structural and functional features of the ecosystem. Allen and Hofstra define ecosystem as the functional ecosystem is the conception where biota are explicitly linked to the abiotic world of their surroundings. Systems boundaries include the physical environment. Size is not the clinical characteristic, rather the cycles and pathways of energy and matter is aggregate form of entire ecosystem. They defined it as the functional ecosystem and emphasized on the functional feature such as nutrient cycling or trophic dynamics as much as what it contains or its size. Though there may be differences in the definitions given by different authors, all have three common characteristics: biotic component, abiotic environment, and interactions between these two. The biotic component of ecosystem generally consists of communities of organisms. The abiotic component include the physico-chemical environment surrounding them. Interactions may be numerous, including food webs, trophic dynamics, nutrient cycling, flow of energy, etc. It has held a central position in modern ecology and environmental science. Modern ecology is now defined as the study of structure and function of ecosystem. Nowadays, most of the environmental management strategies include recognition of ecosystems as a way of ordering our perception of nature. Ecosystems differ greatly in their composition, in the number and kind of species, the type and relative proportions of non-living constituents, and in the degree of variations in time and space. A forest, a grassland, a pond, a coral reef, a part of any field, and a laboratory culture can be some examples of ecosystem. The size of ecosystems varies tremendously. An ecosystem could be an entire rainforest covering a large geographical area, or it could be a single tree inhabiting a large number of birds and microorganisms in its leaf litter. It could be a termite gut, a lake, or the biosphere as a whole with an entire intertwined environment of Earth. The number of ecosystems on Earth is countless and each ecosystem is distinct. All ecosystems have the following common characteristics as given by Smith in 1966. The ecosystem is the major structural and functional unit of ecology. The structure of an ecosystem is related to its species diversity. The more complex ecosystems have higher species diversity. The function of ecosystem is related to energy flow and material cycling through and within the system. The relative amount of energy needed to maintain the ecosystem depends on its structure. The more complex of the structure, the lesser the energy it gets to maintain itself. Ecosystems mature by passing from less complex to more complex stages. Early stages of such succession have an excess of potential energy and a relatively high energy flow per unit biomass. Later, mature stages have less energy accumulation and its flow through more diverse components. Wait a minute. Ecosystems mature by passing from less complex to more complex stages. Early stages of such succession have an excess of potential energy and a relatively high energy flow per unit biomass. Mature stages have less energy accumulation and its flow through more diverse components. Both the environment and energy fixation in any given ecosystem are limited and cannot be exceeded without causing serious undesirable effects. Both the environment and energy fixation in any given ecosystem are limited. The structure of an ecosystem is related to its species diversity. The more complex ecosystem have a species diversity. Both the environment and energy fixation in any given ecosystem are limited and cannot be exceeded without causing serious and undesirable effects. Alterations in the environment represent selective pressure upon population to which it must adjust. Organisms which are unable to adjust to the changed environment disappear ultimately. All ecosystems have a feeding hierarchy which starts from an energy source like sun and then followed by producer, consumer and decomposers. These components are dependent on one another. One of the important features is presence of grazing or detritus food chain and webs which become the lifeline of ecosystems. In grazing food chain and webs, green plants like producers synthesize food from non-living nutrients with the help of sunlight in the process of photosynthesis. Animals, consumers, consume plants and other animals to get the nutrients. When plants or animals die and decay, or when animals excrete waste, bacteria and fungi decomposers feed on the dead or waste materials and release the nutrients back into water and or soil for reuse by the producers. In a detritus food chain or web, the energy comes from dead organic matter, detritus, instead of green product producers. An example of a detritus food web is the ecosystem of a deciduous forest floor. Ecosystems are sustained by the presence of biodiversity. Each organism in an ecosystem has a purpose, niche. As a result, the loss of one species can alter both the size and stability of ecosystem. In a whole, the ecosystems are open systems depicting that things are entering and leaving the system. Open system. Even though the general appearance and basic functions may remain constant for long periods of time. Ecosystem structure. The ecosystem is largely divided into two components, abiotic and biotic components. Ecosystem structure is created due to interactions between abiotic and biotic components varying over space and time. Abiotic components. The abiotic components of an ecosystem refer to physical environment or the non-living factors. The organisms cannot live or survive without their abiotic components. They mainly include inorganic substances required by organisms such as carbon dioxide, water, nitrogen, calcium, phosphorus, etc. that are involved in material cycles. The amount of these inorganic substances present at any given time in ecosystem is called as standing state or standing quality of ecosystem. Organic compounds like proteins, carbohydrates, amino acids, liquids, humic substances and others are synthesized by the biotic component of an ecosystem. They make biochemical structure of ecosystem. Climate factors or climatic factors including mainly rain, light, temperature, humidity, wind and air. Then edaphic and other factors such as mineral, soil, topography, pH greatly determine the functions, distribution, structure, behavior and interrelationship of organisms in a habitat. Then biotic components, we have learned about this. The biotic components of an ecosystem are the living organisms including plants, animals and microorganisms. They are categorized into three groups. Producers are mainly the green plants with the chlorophyll which gives them the ability to use solar energy to manufacture their own food using simple inorganic abiotic substances through the process of photosynthesis. They are also called photoautotrophs. Photolight, auto, self, troph, nutrition. This group is mainly contributed by green plants, herbs, shrubs, trees, phytoplanktons, algae, mosses, etc. There are some chemosynthetic bacteria, sulfur bacteria, deep beneath the ocean, which can synthesize their food in absence of sunlight. This is known as chemoautotrophs. Chemochemical auto self troph nutrition. Consumers lack chlorophyll, so they depend on producers for food. They are also known as heterotrophs. They mainly include herbivores, feed on plants, carnivores, feed on other animals, omnivores, feed on both plants and animals, and deciduous organisms, feed on dead parts, waste remains, etc. of plants and animals. Decomposers, saprotrophs are the microorganisms, bacteria and fungi which break down complex dead organic matter into simple inorganic forms, absorb some of the decomposition products and release inorganic nutrients that are reused by the producers. All ecosystems have their own set of producers, consumers, and decomposers which are specific to that ecosystem. The nutritional relationship among different biotic components of an ecosystem is shown. Energy flow, nutrient flow. Producers, herbivores, carnivore, decomposers, nutrient pool. Like this. Check the nutrient flow. From decomposers into the nutrient pool, there is nutrient flow, but there is no energy flow. Okay, decomposers to nutrient pool, and nothing returns into the sun. That's a very basic thing, but just know that if some confusing questions came from this section while showing the arrow marks, you need to be careful. From decomposers, there is a great amount of nutrient flow into the nutrient pool. Okay. Types of ecosystems. Based on the kind of habitat, there are essentially two types of ecosystem, aquatic and terrestrial. Any other sub-ecosystem falls under the other two types. Terrestrial ecosystem, the ecosystem on land are called the terrestrial ecosystem. They are broadly classified into what? Forest ecosystem. They are the ecosystem with an abundance of flora or plants in relatively small space. A wide diversity of fauna can also be seen. A small change in this ecosystem can affect the whole balance and effectively bring down the whole ecosystem. They are further divided into tropical rainforest. These contain more diverse biodiversity than ecosystems in any other region on Earth. They receive a mean rainfall of 80 cm for every 400 inches annually. In these warm, moisture-laden environments, dense evergreen vegetation comprising tall trees at different heights are present, with fauna species inhabiting the forest floor all the way up to canopy. Then tropical deciduous forest. In these ecosystems, shrubs and dense bushes are found along with a broad selection of trees. The trees are mainly which shed their leaves during dry season. The type of forest is found in quite a few parts of the world, while a large variety of fauna and flora are found there. Temperate evergreen forest. Till now, we have learnt the tropical rainforest. Forest ecosystem into tropical rainforest. They contain more diverse biodiversity than ecosystems in any other region on world. They receive a mean rainfall of 80 cm for every 400 inches annually. 80 centimeter 80 centimeter rainfall. Temperate tropical forest rainforest. Warm moisture laden environments, dense evergreen vegetation comprising tall trees at different heights are present, with fauna species inhabiting the forest floor all the way up to canopy. Tropical deciduous forest. Tropical deciduous. In these ecosystems, shrubs and dense bushes are found along with a broad selection of trees. The trees are mainly which shed their leaves during dry season. The type of forest is found in quite a few parts of the world, while a large variety of fauna and flora are found there. Then temperate evergreen forest. Those have a few number of trees as trees have developed needle-shaped leaves in order to minimize. In case of temperate evergreen forest, okay. Wait a minute, what happens in case of deciduous forest? In these ecosystems, shrubs and dense bushes are found along a broad selection of trees. The trees are mainly which shed their leaves during dry season. The type of forest is found in quite a few parts of the world, while a large variety of fauna and flora are found there. Temperate evergreen forest. These have a few numbers of trees as mosses and ferns make up for them. Trees have developed needle-shaped leaves in order to minimize transpiration. Then temperate deciduous forest. The forest is located in the moist temperate places that have sufficient rainfall. Summers and winters are clearly defined, and the trees shed the leaves during the winter. Taiga. Found just before the Arctic regions, the taiga is defined by evergreen conifers. As the temperature is below zero for almost half a year, the remainder of the months it buzzes with migratory birds and insects. Desert ecosystems. Desert ecosystems are located in regions that receive low precipitation, generally less than 25 centimeter per year. They occupy about 17% of land on Earth. Some deserts contain sand dunes, while others feature mostly rock. Due to the extremely high temperature, low water availability, and dense sunlight, vegetation is scarce or poorly developed, and any animal species such as insects, reptiles, and birds must be highly adapted to the dry conditions. The vegetation is mainly shrubs, bushes, few grasses, and rare trees. The stems and leaves of the plants are modified in order to conserve water as much as possible. For example, succulents such as spiny-leaved cacti. Types of ecosystem: aquatic, marine, freshwater, terrestrial ecosystem, forest, grassland, desert, mountain, man-engineered ecosystems. Grassland ecosystem. Grassland ecosystems are typically found in both tropical and temperate regions of the world. They share the common climatic characteristics of semi-aridity. The area mainly comprises grasses with a little number of trees and shrubs. A lot of grazing animals, insectivores, and herbivores both inhabit the grasslands. The two main types of grassland ecosystems are savanna. The tropical grasslands are dry seasonally and have a few individual trees. They support a large number of predators and grazers. Then prairies. It is temperate grassland. Prairie is a temperate grassland. Prairie dog. Think about that. That prairie dog is on temperate side. Savanna, tropical. Okay. It is temperate grassland completely devoid of large shrubs and trees. Prairies could be categorized as mixed grass, tall trees, and short grass prairies. Mountain ecosystem. Mountain land provides a scattered and diverse array of habitats where a large number of animals and plants are found. At the higher altitudes and the harsh environment, only the treeless alpine vegetation can survive. The animals have thick fur coats for prevention from cold and hibernation in the winter months. Lower slopes are commonly covered with coniferous forests. Then aquatic ecosystems. Aquatic ecosystem is the ecosystem found in a body of water. It encompasses aquatic flora, fauna, and water properties as well as. There are two main types of aquatic ecosystem: marine and freshwater. Marine ecosystem, biggest ecosystem, which cover around 71% of Earth's surface and contain 97% of our planet's water. Water in marine ecosystem contain high amount of dissolved minerals and salts. Various marine ecosystems include oceanic, a relatively shallow part of oceans which lies on the continental shelf; profundal, deep or bottom water; benthic, bottom substrates; intertidal, the place between low and high tides; estuaries; coral reefs; salt marshes; hydrothermal vents, where chemosynthetic bacteria make up the food base. Many kinds of organisms live in marine ecosystems: the brown algae, coral, cephalopods, echinoderms, dinoflagellates, shark, etc. Freshwater ecosystem. Contrary to the marine ecosystem, the freshwater ecosystem covers only 0.8% of Earth's surface and contains 0.009% of the total water. The basic kinds of freshwater ecosystem except lentic, slow moving or still water like pools, lakes or ponds. Lotic, fresh moving. Fast moving water such as streams and rivers. Then wetlands, places in which the soil is inundated or saturated for some lengthy period of time. The natural and artificial ecosystem. All above ecosystems are natural ecosystems, as these operate themselves under natural conditions without any major interference by man. Some ecosystems are maintained artificially by human beings, where by addition of energy and plant manipulation, natural balance is disturbed regularly. For example, croplands like maize, wheat, rice fields, etc. where man tries to control the biotic community as well as the physico-chemical environment. These are called as artificial or man-engineered ecosystem. Then ecosystem boundary. The ecosystems appear distinct from each other with time and space, but functionally they are linked with each other. No ecosystem can exist alone. They are always in contact with the adjacent ecosystem. There exist no functional boundaries between them. Adjacent ecosystems interact with each other in order to make their structure and function. For example, various insects may be aquatic for certain parts of their life cycle, and later on they become herbivores of the vegetation on land. The adjacent aquatic land ecosystem may become common organisms like birds. There is an exchange of inorganic nutrients between them. For example, seabirds bring the element phosphorus from sea to land in the form of guano. The same element phosphorus as found in Himalayan region may be brought to land by the rivers. The boundaries of ecosystem do overlap, and this overlapping area is known as the transition zone. The transition zone is also called as an ecotone. It can be wide or narrow. The tropical rainforest and savanna along with the grasslands are also included under it. These areas have the plants and animals of both the ecosystem. The Earth's life support system consists of four main components: the geosphere, the atmosphere, hydrosphere, and the biosphere. These components are overlapping and interrelated with each other. A change in one is likely to result in change in one or more others. Ecology is defined as the study of natural environment, including the relations of organisms to one another and to their surroundings. Ecos and logos. Remember that ecology is the study of life at home with main emphasis on pattern of relationship between organisms and their surrounding environment. The functional interactions among organisms and their non-living physico-chemical environment constitute an interrelating and interdependent ever-changing system known as what is called ecological system or ecosystem. This is a basic functional unit of ecology. Ecology as study of ecosystems. Abiotic and biotic components are there. Non-living factors, living organisms. Flow of energy and material cycling keep the ecosystem functional. Two types of ecosystems are there: aquatic and terrestrial. Marine and freshwater. Terrestrial ecosystem are the forest, grassland, desert, mountain, and man-made ecosystems. They are linked with each other. They are always in contact with each other. Transition zone is there. Ecotone is also there. Then we'll be learning about the edge effect. In the ecotone region, there is a greater amount of species diversity. That's called edge effect. Edge species is also present. For example, estuaries and delta region. Thank you for listening.